Almost, you are live.
Good morning, everybody. This is the first meeting of the new House Education Committee for the 25-26 biennium. We are going to open our discussion in this committee to really review some of the way the Vermont educational system works so that this committee can be sort of together grounded in some of the complexities of it. Today, we're going to start with a presentation from our legislative council. And I think what we'll do is kind of work through the presentation. And unless you have a question that needs to be answered right then and there, let's hold off on questions until we get to the end. I'm going to really turn it right over to, actually, I'm not. I'm going to say, since we are all going to be seeing each other, we are going to introduce ourselves to our legislative council before our legislative council introduces herself to us. So just if you would give your name, where you're from, and we'll just go around quite quickly. Well, we start with Beth.
Beth Quimby from London, so Sheffield, we lost 7 minutes.
Emily Long, Newfane. Nice to see you again, Beth.
Kate McCann, representing the good people of Montpelier.
Joshua Governor, Williamstown, representing Grove Central.
Chris Taylor, North Georgia.
Peter Conlon, Cornwall, and 4 other towns.
Shanna Brown, Richmond.
Rob Hunter, Manchester, and some towns south of there.
Leanne Harple, Albany, Cross Street, Glover, and Waynesboro.
Great, and I know Rep. 2
Yes.
and Rep. Brady.
Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Beth St. James, Legislative Council. I'd like to see another Beth on the committee. Are you an Elizabeth?
No, I'm a Beth.
Oh, my dad would be very happy to hear that. Hello, it's nice to meet, see some of you. It's nice to be here. I am the Education Policy Attorney in Leg Council, so you will primarily see me this session. We made a little change this year based on kind of workload and topics of interest to you all, our clients, and that is splitting education finance off of my portfolio. So I will be Ed Policy. My colleague, John Gray, will be Ed Finance. And we still have our tax attorney, Kirby Keaton. So all 3 of us are kind of handling Ed Finance because, as you all know, or you will get to know, you can't really separate Ed Policy from Ed Finance very cleanly. So while you will mostly see me, you will also see John, and I doubt you'll see Kirby, but you will hear about his work in Ways and Means is my guest, is our tax. And also John is spearheading the topic of school construction. So that will not be me. That's I'm starting with all the things you should not ask me about. So today we're just going to do School Governance 101. I have read all of your bios, so I know there's a lot of education experience here. So if I have, I tried to pick examples of school districts and supervisory unions that might look familiar to some of you. Although the last one was just too good not to use, even though I don't believe anyone on this committee is a member of that supervisory union. So if I've gotten something wrong, please let me know. And if at any point, Sherry, you feel like this is too basic, please ask me to move on. So we're just gonna start, we're gonna go right to the second slide. We're gonna skip the title slide. Because now you know who I am. And so I've tried to, I hope you're all looking at this in color. Yep. I've tried to, so we're going to talk about school governance in Vermont, and we're going to talk about it at the local level. You've got the Agency of Education and the State Board of Education that I think would also be part of school governance. We're talking about that generally, not a part of this conversation. We're talking about local organization. So you've got supervisory unions. Oh, and I also want to say I'm a lawyer, not a clip art artist.
This is very good.
Please be kind. That red block, I could not get off that square or that rectangle. So anyway, so we're starting with supervisory unions are going to be in red, and they are going to, you'll see house school districts. So they're nestled in there in blue. And then within the school district, there are little school buildings, or maybe not. So we're going to go to the third slide, supervisory unions. So you will hear just the 2 letters SU used a lot. When you hear SU, I myself, and probably most everyone else you're hearing from is referring to a supervisory union in this meeting. For the purposes of our discussion today, and likely any other discussion we are having, until we start to talk about changes, if that is where you go, is supervisory unions and supervisory districts. I'm not gonna say supervisory union and supervisory district, I'm just gonna say FU. Supervisory districts are supervisory unions, and we're gonna talk about on this slide what that means. So supervisory unions are administrative, planning, and educational service units created by the state board. SUs are not municipalities. They do not have taxing capacity. No one's voting in a supervisory union. They are providing, I like to think of it as a central office. There are certain duties and powers that they have through state law. But they are different and distinct from a school district, even if it is a supervisory district. So supervisory union, you can see on the left-hand side, means that it is an administrative planning and educational service unit created by the state board that is made up of multiple school districts. So there's 3 boxes there.
Mhm.
A supervisory district is one school district. And that would be the state board making a determination that that school district is large enough that it makes sense for the administrative planning and educational services provided by that supervisory union to just be for that one school. They have enough work for them. So that's why when I say supervisory union, for the purposes of this conversation, we're gonna sweep supervisory districts in. And even though a supervisory district is made up of one school district, they still have distinct powers and duties over the school district. The boards are gonna be the same. The faces are probably gonna be the same, but the SU itself is required to do certain things that the school district does not, and vice versa. Anytime you see an underline in this presentation, there's a hot link. If you can't just click on it, right click on it, and then you'll be able to go to it. So I've linked you to 16 VSA 261A, which is the duties of supervisory union board. This is just a sample. This is not everything. We are gonna primarily be talking about Title 16 anytime I am in front of you. That is my home, Title 16, education title. And this is the statute that lists the duties of the supervisory union board. I tried to highlight the ones that in my experience I've talked about the most. That doesn't mean that they are the most important or take up the most work. It's just the ones I think we talk about the most. So an SU is responsible for establishing the SU-wide curriculum. They're also responsible for helping schools implement that curriculum. They are the receiver and disperser of federal and state funds distributed by AOE. They're also responsible for professional development. Special education services, that's a big one. When we're talking about special ed, it's the I'm sure this will come up at another time. We hear a lot about local education agencies. It's a kind of a federal term, and every state defines it differently. And for Vermont, that's the supervisory union, and they are responsible for special education services. And then provision of several services like procurement, management of construction projects, negotiate teacher contracts, transportation, etc. I would say any questions, but your chair has said we're going to save them. So.
Are there any questions? I think that's not a bad idea to break quickly.
Great. Okay, so we're gonna go to slide 4, school districts. So there are town school districts, union school districts, interstate school districts, city school districts, unified union school districts, and incorporated school districts, each of which is governed by a publicly elected board. So when we're talking about public school districts, we're talking about all those different types. They all have the same powers and responsibilities. They were just formed differently, and they are organized differently. So there are several different types of school districts, and they are dependent on several criteria. So the first thing we're going to be looking at to figure out what type of a school district we're looking at is the number of towns the school district serves. Does it serve one school district? In which case it's probably a town school district, city school district, or an incorporated school district. For example, Burlington. Does it serve multiple towns? If it serves 2 or more towns, it is a union school district. And I'll confuse you further in a minute when we talk about the different types of union school districts. The next thing we're looking at is, well, what grades is the school district organized to provide education for? So a school district does not have to provide pre-K through 12 education. It can be formed to provide a subset of those grades for their residents. So if a school district serves multiple towns and it provides education in pre-K through 12, it's a unified union school district. If it provides a subset of those grades and it serves multiple towns, it's a union elementary or a union high school, depending on what grades it is organized to provide education for. With me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how does the school district provide education for its students? Some school districts operate their own brick and mortar schools. Some school districts tuition their students out. Some school districts do both. And you'll see examples. The last slide is my favorite because it's pretty much every example you can have under one supervisory union. So under one supervisory union, you're going to have multiple school districts, and those school districts can be different types of school districts. They could be organized to provide education for different subsets of grades, and they can choose to provide that education in different ways. We're going to move to slide 5. Again, there's a hot link to 16 VSA. Oh, and there should be a symbol sign there. That's going to bother me. Section 563, powers of school boards. Again, this is not meant as a commentary on what are their most important duties. Again, these are just the ones that I have had the most experience talking about. So the school district is responsible for setting the educational policies of the school district. And this is my favorite because it is such a broad statement. May take any action that is required for the sound administration of the school district. School districts have the possession, care, control, and management of the property of the district. They're required to keep school buildings in good repair. They have discretion to administer early education programs. They may relocate or discontinue use of a schoolhouse or facility subject to applicable law. So consider that an asterisk. They handle the budget. They can execute contracts. And a school district is a municipality. They have taxing authority, power, capacity, whatever term you want to put on there. And they can exercise the general powers given to a legislative branch of municipality. So often if we are talking about something related to voting or any other powers incident to being a municipality, I will often consult my colleague who handles municipal law matters. That's a big one, a big distinction between supervisory unions and school districts. School districts are considered municipalities and they have taxing capacity. And so we will talk about, let's see. All right, I'll save my tangent for a second. So union school district, here's just an attempt at a visual to help you understand the different types of union school districts. So on the left-hand side, a union elementary and high school district, you've got, let's say, town school district A, B, and C. And they all are one school district, one town, but they only operate pre-K through 6. Then they send all their kiddos for high school to one school district. And that union school district is school district D, and they're going to operate 7 through 12 for all of those students. So if a school district is organized to operate for elementary school, they have to provide for the rest of the grades for their students. They don't have to provide it in their own school district, but they could for example, tuition students out, or like this, they could be a member of a union high school district, so that when their students are done receiving education in their school district, they then become members of the union high school district. And then the unified union school district on the right, towns A, B, and C, you can see there are different school buildings listed in each of those different towns, but they're all part of the unified union school district. So for taxing purposes, in that unified union school district example, towns A, B, and C don't exist. The municipality is the unified union school district. Now, there are some caveats. There's caveats to everything I say. I'm a lawyer, right? But there are some caveats to that I think are important. But in general, when we're talking about unified union school districts, or just union school districts in general, when we're talking about municipalities, there are the municipalities that are members of the school districts, but we're talking about school finance and school budgets, and who's voting on that school budget. It's not town A, town B, and town C voting. It is the unified union school district voting on that school district budget. The people who are voting just happen to live in different zip codes. And those different zip codes matter for lots of other purposes that are outside of my scope of practice, right? I'm not the
It's
municipal
fair to
lawyer.
say that budget yields one tax rate,
Correct,
frees the other.
correct,
For the CRA, where your zip code doesn't matter.
yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but a clarifying question. Modified union, I'm sorry.
Yes,
There's still, that term still does exist.
Yes.
I have
Mhm.
one school district in my school district that is actually its own entity for pre-K 6. And it's part of the union school district, unified union school district for 7-12. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood there are different, we haven't used the term MUUSD in a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether the term is gone, and it should be gone because we're still a unified union school district, but it is, we were formed as a modified unified union school district.
that's an excellent point. I was trying to not get that granular.
Sorry.
No, I don't apologize at all. This is a conversation. Rep Long is absolutely correct. There is another type of union school district called a modified union school district. You're not gonna find that, well, you will now, because in my first year on Ledge Council, I did a rewrite of the union school district chapter that almost made me quit. That's a joke. Modified union school districts are a creation of case law. And if I remember correctly, and I'm happy to come back and present on this,
So
it arose out of a discrepancy on voting representation on the school board. So again, outside of the scope of this presentation, but each union school district gets to decide for itself the representation model it uses on its school district. And there's 3 different parts. And that all has to do with the US Constitution, one vote, everyone gets one vote, right? And we don't want to dilute different member towns or member school districts say. And so when a school district forms, they decide how to apportion representation to all their member towns or school districts. And there was a challenge to one decision, and out of that arose the modified union school district concept. So keep that in the back of your head.
thank you.
I'm seeing furrowed brows.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So here's some examples. This is like nothing compared to what we're gonna get into this session, I'm sure. So, okay, so here's some examples. Who is a member of Central Vermont Supervisory Union? All right. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay. So Central Vermont Supervisory Union. The red oval is the SU. Remember, this is central office, planning, administrative, no taxing capacity. It's a supervisory union because there are 2 blue boxes. There are 2 school districts. If there was one, which we'll see on the next slide, it would be a supervisory. Yay, okay. So on the left-hand side, you have Eco Valley Community School District, which is made up of the towns of Orange and Washington. So for when those towns go to vote on a school budget, they're all voting under the municipality of the Echo Valley Community School District. There's the Washington Village School, which is located in Washington, and they operate pre-K through 4. And then there's the Orange Center School located in Orange that operates grades 5 through 8. And then they tuition their high school students. So when I say tuition, that generally speaking, that means that those students can go to any public or approved independent school for various different tuition rates, but generally speaking, it's the average announced union school district tuition. That's another asterisk, that's another caveat. Payne Mountain School District, Northfield, Williamstown, you can see they operate 4 schools. And there's no tuition involved there. So you've got Northfield Elementary operating pre-K through 5 and Williamstown Elementary operating pre-K through 5. And then you've got a high school, middle school and high school in each of the towns. If we go to slide 8, this is an example of Milton Supervisory District. 1 oval, right, Milton Supervisory District, 1 blue square, so it's a supervisory district, this is 1 school district. And Milton operates 3 schools. They've got an elementary school, a middle school, and, did I get that right? And now my favorite. Slide 9. Is anyone, I don't think anyone here is a member of the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union.
I'm not a member, but I'm very.
Okay. I use this is a presentation I gave this summer to the schools construction working group, I think, study group.
This is Southwest.
No,
You're strictly.
This is.
I'm Bennington Rutland, so
Okay,
I'm up there.
so you got some of this.
I was at Burnburn, but these are my neighbors.
Okay.
Same grade.
Yeah,
So
yes.
this is one right? We've got an oval, we've got supervisory union, and we've got 5 school districts. So this is, remember, the state board. School districts are formed, again, asterisk, caveat, school districts are formed when voters get together and decide to form a school district. There's process in state law for how that happens. Supervisory union borders are formed by the State Board of Education. There is a process where you can ask for modifications, but that is a state board discretion. So the state board has decided that these 5 school districts are going to be under 1 SU, so 1 administrative planning unit. And then each of those individual school districts have decided various different ways to provide for the education of their students. So I think we hit literally every example here.
Yeah.
So Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District. So they are organized just to provide pre-K through 6 elementary school districts. But they're made up of 3, it's made up of 3 towns, so it's a union school district. And then it operates 1, 2, 3 different schools. And you can see by the name of at least 2 of those, you can guess where those schools are located. Then the Union Elementary School District is also made up of the town of, Bennington is also a member of the school district. And it operates pre-K through 5 schools, 3 schools. This is 1 school district. Organized only to provide elementary school education. Then there's the Mount Anthony Union School District, made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 towns. Only organized to provide K through 12. Then you've got North Bennington School District, which is non-operational. It tuitions all of its students in only pre-K through 6. And you can see North Bennington for high school is a part of the Mount Anthony Union School District. Then you've got Arlington School District, which operates 2 schools, an elementary school and a middle through high school. So they provide through brick and mortar, they operate schools and they provide the education pre-K through 12. And then you've got Sandgate School District that is non-operational and it tuitions pre-K through 12 students. And all of those different school districts are under one supervisory union, so they are getting their, supervisory union-wide curriculum is being set for all of them, special education services, professional development, all of those services are being provided by one SU for all of those different school districts. I think that's it. That's my last slide.
So this was a class, so let's do a little testing. We'll go around the circle here. Start with Representative Two. What do you got? What do you represent?
I represent, we have a unified school district of Maple Run that has 3 K through 8 districts into, and then 1 high school with a tech center.
Okay, so what you're saying is that there are 3 school boards for those K through 8 districts?
One unified school board.
So those are not districts, those are just school buildings.
True. Yes,
So you are one unified school district.
one unified school district.
Representative Harple.
So, I work at Orleans Southwest Supervisory Union. We have 2 high schools and we have various elementary schools that get to go to one of the 2 high schools depending on their district. Within our elementary schools, there's 1 3-school elementary school district now. That were 3 separate schools, but now they're 1 district within our supervisory union. So I guess that would make it a unified union school district? No,
No, well, it depends. Is there just one school board overseeing all of it?
no, there's multiple school boards.
So.
And
at
then
that
there's a
point, you know that
central-
It's not a unified
Okay.
union school district.
So it's a supervisory union.
Yeah, made up of, and made up of, and can you name the school districts? And for everything that has a board, it's a district.
Right, okay.
So like, for example, do those 3 elementary schools that are together now,
They have 1 board.
they have 1 board. So that's a union elementary school district.
Yeah,
And then everybody goes to what high school?
no,
Oh,
so,
they go to both high schools.
well, sorry, this is the part where it gets complicated for me because we've got 2 high schools and you go to a specific high school, you don't get
Yeah.
to choose.
Yeah.
But, the kids who go to the 3 different elementary schools that are in 1 district go to Hazen Union, and the kids that go to the Craftsbury Elementary School go to Craftsbury Union within the same supervisory union.
One superintendent for all of this.
Yes, 1 superintendent.
Hmm.
So it's a
You
super,
have a complex system.
yes, we
Okay.
do.
Wow.
Rob?
Taconic and Green Supervisory Union, which includes, like 1, maybe kindergarten through like 6th or 7th in Danby. There's Manchester Elementary School, K through 8. There's Fisher Elementary. No, not Fisher. I mean up on the mountain. Floodbrook, which is, I think, K through 8. Sunderland Elementary
So we can
School.
break those down into the names of the separate districts, a district being something that is governed by its own board.
Well, there's 1 board for the Taconic and Green, and all these schools fall under it. And then they all send to Bernburg.
Do they all set the burn burden, or do they just all have choice?
Some have choice. The mountain towns have some choice. I think just the mountain towns.
So how is it that, I'm not sure any place in Vermont other than Bedford designates. So I would correctly just say that the children or the parents choose
Yes.
BDA,
Yeah,
but they could choose from any other.
right. And as I said, especially the mountain towns, because there's Green Mountain, there's Leland and Gray down the other way.
Excuse me, everybody has choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 1 superintendent, 1 school board.
Yeah.
Okay,
And multiple schools.
all right. Rep. Brown.
So Richmond falls within the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District. Which means, so we have 1 unified school board for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 towns, I think.
So I represent 5 towns, 2 in one unified union school district, that being Otter Valley Unified Union School District, which is a K-12 school district that operates elementary schools, but all under one board. And then I represent towns of the Addison Central School District, which is sort of Middlebury and the surrounding communities, which is 7 towns, 7 elementary schools, 1 union middle school, 1 union high school, that, as you can imagine, under Act 46, was all 8 boards plus the district board. We unified 1 board. That's and as did Otter Valley. Otter Valley is a little different because it is also part of an SU, because they have in Act 46 parlance what's called a side-by-side. There's also another school district that falls within it. Ignore that. It's part of supervisory, as supervisory.
And I've got the simple one, 3 schools, 1 district, supervisory district, that will be.
We're a supervisory union, 2 districts. One that designates the high school, and then my district has 2 high schools.
They don't designate their choice.
Big choice to us. They don't, but
Does everybody understand the difference between designation and choice?
we wish to.
So I represent 3 towns that are happily all in the same supervisory union, like you. But they are different. 2 of them attend the modified unified union school district, West River School District, Education District that I serve on the school board of. And the other one is a single town, Marlboro, which operates pre-K through 8, sorry, and tuition's 9 to 12.
So where I live is now Kingdom East, which is, I believe, 8 towns. And K-8 combined into a board. And then choice for high school, most go to Linden Institute, but some go to Danville, some go to St. J Academy, because it's very, very spread out. Where I work was Orleans Central Supervisory Union, which has 6 elementary schools, all with their own districts or boards. There are now ones with Lake Region Union Elementary Middle School. And then there's Lake Region High School, which is a separate district that those 6 schools feed into.
Can I actually modify my answer, because I realized I left out half of, so I also represent Lake Region because of Albany and Glover.
Right.
And so that's that same vote. And
Right.
I'm also, I assume other people might be in this, there are other reps in the House that represent my high school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I think I've got 5 reps that represent.
yeah, okay.
I think that's a great point, Rep. Purple, because it highlights the difference between the town as a municipality and the school district as a municipality, right? You all were elected based on your town.
Yes.
Right? We're gonna talk about school districts.
And of course, we have, districts that include towns from 2 counties, sometimes 3 counties.
Yeah, our school district includes Huntington, which is in the Addison Senate District.
That's right. We only give Senate districts.
Yeah, right.
Is it safe to say that, because a lot of this is pretty confusing, right? Is it safe to say that this system that is currently present in Vermont has literally evolved over the last 150, 200 years?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, when you start, really right from 1 schoolhouses,
right,
combining into creating a town elementary school,
right.
to union high schools.
And distances have kind of changed, right? I mean, like 10 miles 100 years ago is probably a long way, right? Yeah, okay,
Sure.
yeah, interesting.
So that I have in our family relatives who are alive who actually went to school in almost one school.
Yeah.
Schoolhouses that have turned into, so it's that recent.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I watched Hancock and Rochester,
Mhm.
Hancock and Granville go from
Yes.
operating 1 or 2 room schoolhouses to combining to
Yeah.
just not having enough reading for that and
Right.
expanding completely.
Right.
And so the evolution has been ongoing all that time.
Okay.
Things have changed significantly. And in other ways, haven't changed significantly. Yeah.
Can I mention, sorry.
Yeah,
Can I
please.
mention- So, this brings up an interesting concept that I hope you all keep in the back of your head, and that is, one of my favorite things to say, those of you who have worked with me before know I love to say, you're the legislature, you get to make it up, you get to change it, right? So, Vermont is what we call a Dillon's rule state, which means municipalities derive their powers from the legislature.
Dylan's rule.
And that would include school districts. So when we're talking about why is something the way it is, your predecessors probably made a decision at some point in time. Or they made a decision that led to the consequences that happened in the field. But it also means that you get to change things if that is what you want to do.
This really sort of goes back to our constitution, where the state is responsible, but we delegate that responsibility to municipalities. Would you just explain for a quick moment? You talked about supervisory unions, how they centralize services.
Mhm.
Obviously, that comes with expense. How are they funded?
So supervisory unions are, my understanding, and I should say, so my understanding is the line item on the school district budget. It's split up amongst the school districts. I will also say, I am an attorney who works for you. I am not in the field. So I will do my best to answer some of the field questions. And the longer I am in this position, the better I will get at that. But you may ask me questions that I punt and say, that's a really good question for the field, because I can tell you what the law says, but I can't tell you how it's executed in the field. So my understanding is just the line item.
Yes, but I do think that different SUs have different ways.
To apportion it. Mhm.
Yeah, based on sometimes the numbers of staff, sometimes numbers of students.
But there's no vote on there's no electorate vote on a supervisory union budget. It is a part of the school district budget, and that's what the voters are voting on. There's most likely a vote by the supervisory union board on the budget. And that's a representation model, right? You voted folks onto that board. But the vote that the people are making is for the school district budget.
And again, it's different depending on the SU, how the members of the SU board, which is made up of board members from the district boards, are appointed or elected. Or how many you get per something. Sometimes it's divided equally regardless, and sometimes it's divided proportionally based on how many kids you have.
That's a great point. The number of, I would not make the assumption that if we are talking about similarly situated school districts or SUs, that they have the same number of board members. It is all over the map.
Yes.
That's a local decision. There is, to my knowledge, nothing in state law that specifies.
The only thing in state law that I think I know of is that if you would like to change the way you have it, you have to go to the state board to get that approved.
For SUs.
For SUs.
Yeah.
Right.
I was saying this, I believe and forgive me if I'm wrong, there was a statute that said that it's like the basis is equal representation for each board on the SU, unless the SU makes a different decision. Yes, it will. So if there is a change, it does have to go through all sorts of state stuff.
Yeah, well, I'll give an example. So two of the towns I represent are the Otter Valley Unified Union School District, which is part of the Rutland Northeast Supervisory Union. So the Otter Valley is the Otter Valley High School and the 3 or 4 towns that feed it. The other district within the SU is 2 small elementary schools. Their current setup is equal share from districts on the SU board. So you can imagine you've got 4 people from 2 very small elementary schools and 4 people from a full-on K-12 unified high school district, all of that. And so they often discuss, is this equal sharing fair? And they've sort of had an attitude of, until it isn't, it is. Until it doesn't work, it's working. But when they choose to go differently, they have to go to the state board and say, we would like you to modify our SU representation.
You said Otter Valley.
This is Otter Valley as a district. and Barstow as a district. And they're the Rutland Northeast Supervisory Union.
Side by side.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the part about having to go to the state board to change it in, are you absolutely positive about that? Because
You,
one of our school districts in our, I'm vice chair of my SU board.
Yeah.
One of our school districts in our SU became non-operating recently. And we just reduced the number of representation on board now because they're also represented by the Union School District that they're a part of as
well,
well.
I'm gonna say that it's probably, if you can't come to a resolution, you can go to the state board. I know there's something about if it is lopsided based on school population or some kind of population, you can go to the state board and have it modified.
Honestly, the other, well, something we are dealing with is that we were told that even if both districts agree on a representation change, you will likely be moved forward by the state, but it has to be presented to the state as the decision we both agree on, so.
I'm sure that's right. If everybody goes to the state board, agree,
Right.
it can happen, but generally the state board says, you guys don't come back to the other, so you can agree among yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I opened a can of worms. I just meant there's nothing in the law that says you must have 5 board members.
That's right.
You know, so this understanding of the current system is gonna be very important as we move into some discussions about what we heard yesterday. That, you know, when we talk about larger scale, larger school districts or regions, you know, it would sort of do away with what has already been a much evolving system for something on a much grander scale.
Good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, when you hear people talk about other too many supervisory unions, which people have been saying they hear a lot, this is sort of, this is the current groundworks out there. So how many, let's call them superintendencies do we have out there?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's 52 supervisory unions.
Okay,
And
and
100.
that includes the supervisory district.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Were you not listening?
I had to cut wide the hallway when you were just diving into the SUSD definitions.
And then there's so that would be, so when we're talking about superintendents, they're like the executive officer of the SU. So I believe it's 1 for 1.
Yes.
And then, for school districts, I think there's 118, 19. The kind of executive officers there are gonna be based on schools, right, principals. And that's gonna vary, right? You could have no principals because you're a non-operating district, or you could operate 5 schools and have 5 principals.
And I will just bring up a really oddball example. So in Addison County, we have the town of Lincoln. They sort of, under the old rules, withdrew from their supervisory district and became their own.
I think Arlington did the same.
So they've had to have a superintendent for what is by law, for what is a K-6, basically elementary school.
So does the superintendent serve sort of as the principal as well?
I don't know how it works quite in this case. I think it's a share.
Okay.
They probably, it's either they share the position or the position is one person sharing both principal duties and superintendent duties.
They have the authority to hire or fire the principal, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and that was my question about the example you just brought up. You said schools that would have no principal, like, so,
No, schools would have a principal. It's-
okay,
School district may have may not employ any principals because they don't operate any schools.
okay.
Right.
But the principal still exists and works with the school.
The principals would be in the schools that the kiddos are tuitioned to,
Okay, oh, got it.
Yeah, so for example.
or headmasters.
Near me, Hancock and Granville do not operate schools. They are a district, but they employ no one because all the kids are tuitioned.
Yes,
So I'm thinking where I'm from, Granby.
Yep.
So like Granby, Bloomfield, this is in that far northeast corner, there's a school district that basically doesn't have any schools.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
So they're gonna
Kingdom
be
Choice
principals.
is a
Right.
unified
So it's a
union
district,
school district without a school or employee other than a part-time superintendent.
but they're still a SU, they still have to legally be an SU in a district and they just tuition everybody everywhere.
And that's the far.
Up in that far northeast corner. In fact, a lot of students go across the state.
I was gonna say, do they, yeah.
And the reason you have, why you still have to have a superintendent and maybe some other stuff is because there are federal regulations about special education.
It's not that paperwork and get that, make sure they get taken care of.
Yeah.
So those superintendents still have lots of duties?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Further questions while we have the advantage of our expertise in the room?
This is my favorite part of the job, is coming and talking to you guys. I'm a litigator by trade, so I really like being in the hot seat and put on the spot.
Remember that.
So is it the Vermont legislature that would get to make the decision to say, reduce the number of supervisory unions and say, we're now combining these and we're reorganizing these districts?
I think Dylan's rule was, yes.
I think technically the state board has the power to change boundaries right now.
Mhm.
But you absolutely have the power to change that delegation of authority or to dictate parameters. So you could take that power away from the state board and make that decision yourselves.
Under Dylan's rule,
Yes. Well, yes.
okay?
Kind of, because the state board's not a municipality, so we're not really worried about Dylan's role with the state board. It's just separation of powers issue. You could modify that power, you could give them direction. The ultimate authority rests with you.
So, for example, every year we get a bill that says, we're gonna turn Vermont into one school district. Would that mean that part of us sort of, if we were to take it up and put it into play, we would have to take away power from the state board because they draw the boundaries?
Yes, it would involve a major rewrite of Title 16, and we'll talk about this before I leave.
That'd be great, because I'd like to do that again if possible.
No. Yes, it would involve, changing powers all over the place.
So, this might be getting too much into the weeds right now.
We got time?
Say that we did that, or say maybe that we didn't go 1, but we went 3, or we went 4. That's obviously gonna reduce the number of superintendents. Do we then put it on the newly organized districts to say you guys all need to agree on which 3 out of 4 you're gonna let go and which you're gonna retain, or do we make that decision if it becomes one district?
Well, these are great, I mean, this is,
That's the stuff.
this is stuff
Okay.
we're gonna be talking about, and yeah, so that's right, who is the hiring entity
Yeah,
for a newly modified, let's say we did, just you said we went to 5 school districts
mhm,
for the state, each one with a superintendent. One would assume that there would be a school board also attached to that as well, would probably be in charge of it. But again, we could say, no, the state board hires everybody, or
Right.
the AOE hires everybody. It's really up to us.
but like I work in a high school and it's very clear if we need to reduce staff, who gets reduced first, like it's in our contracts. That doesn't necessarily exist at the superintendent level, like seniority, like we had, 50 superintendents, now we're going to go to 10.
So if you look at Act 46, and in particular up in the Northeast Kingdom,
Yeah,
when I think we did Kingdom Choice and one of the other ones. There were 2 superintendents, it was clear, only one was needed.
yeah,
So both, they don't have a union protection, so everybody loses their job.
Right,
Theoretically.
right,
And then the new board would hire the new person.
I see.
I believe there are some even administrative, there used to be some that unionized administrators of the state, but I don't know if there are.
I've never heard of that, with superintendents. But I mean, it would all be within whatever law we would create.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, these meaty questions like that, and we keep them all top of mind and ask them while we have the opportunity.
And I should say, I am not, we have an attorney in my office who handles labor and employment matters. So, if that is the road you end up going down, even if it's just to hear some presentation on basic labor law, I would rope in my colleagues, right? So I'm gonna phone a friend for the various different things. Again, my home is Title 16.
Title 16.
Title 16, your home is Title 16.
Got it. Oh, that again.
And I will say, in the past, we've provided, so this is the education law book, it's put together by the Vermont School Boards Association, and it takes all of Title 16 and then a whole bunch of other laws and other titles that are applicable to education law, put them all into this nice, law book. And in the past, we've provided them for committees, but sometimes committees don't use them.
Right.
So is that something that you all?
I would say if people would like a copy, I would speak with you.
You just shoot me, well,
Is it online?
It's a VSBA provided thing.
all of the, no, not in this organization, but Title 16 is, yes, absolutely online, and you have
But-
all of the green books right there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You know, I find it much easier to just sort of do a search within the Vermont state statutes
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
And if you, are new to navigating our website, and are interested in any sort of tutorial, let me know. I'd love to teach you to fish.
Okay.
Because once you figure it out, you can find what you're looking for pretty easily.
Do people feel like if we were to sort of throw up any example that you could, you know, understand the structure of that school district?
Yes, we're total experts.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because that is, you know, as we sort of get more granular and people come in from different places that Vermont can testify, one thing I always like to do is sort of clarify what district they come from, what type of district it is, and where it is, so that, you know, we can understand that, oh, that's your supervisor union, yeah, right.
One of the ones that came up at the Rural Education Collaborative Breakfast a couple weeks ago was, it was up in Essex County where they send their kids to New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
They don't
Have
have,
it
yeah,
yet.
let me say, nobody sends kids
Right.
to New Hampshire, that is kingdom choice.
Okay,
Or maybe another district up there, and those parents can send their children to any public school or approved independent school.
oh, okay, I guess I was under the impression that they just went to, there was a
So many
designated.
parents choose New Hampshire schools because they're actually physically closer to where they live
So-
than the public schools.
For example, Representative McCann grew up on the border in Vermont, went to White Valley, White Mountains Valley. In Lancaster.
Right.
And that would be just the same as if you were from like a choice town, like
Yep.
that, and you chose boarding school or
That's
something.
exactly right,
Right,
yes.
okay.
Now, there are, two areas where it's different. You have interstate school districts.
That's what I was.
So for example, Norwich and Hanover,
Mhm.
that is
Right.
that is a school district that includes both sides, and then things get really complicated because like people don't vote on the Hanover High School budget.
Yeah,
And they take an act of Congress to create an interstate school
Yes.
district. So,
And then the other one is Fairleigh and
Uh-huh.
Orford.
We got a bunch on the New York side too.
No, those are the only
Oh,
two
those are
interstate
two.
school districts.
and we will also pay the designated tuition in a choice town if they choose a school out of the country.
Well, go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
so in Vermont.
Well, first of all, let's just talk about tuition limits. So if you choose a boarding school in Switzerland that's $75,000 a year, you don't get $75,000.
So in Vermont, we have what is colloquially called the town tuition program. You will not see that in statute. If a school district tuitions its students, they can go anywhere and to any public school or approved independent school. And there's no geographical boundaries on that, but there are limits on the tuition that the state will pay. So if you choose to go to a boarding school in Switzerland, you can take the again, generally speaking, the average announced union school district tuition, there are some differences with that. And that money would follow the student to the school, and then the student would be responsible for paying anything above that, or making a deal with the school, whatever, that's all up to those families. But yes, there's no current geographical limits. But it does have to be an approved independent school. And so that comes with some regulations and standards. It's not just any school you can think of.
Yeah. So I understand that. Some kids in our district, choose Stansted right across the border.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So another example would be in the towns near Burke Academy, for example, where many, let's say in some towns, all kids go to Burke, or at least most of them do. If that independent school raises their tuition above the statewide average tuition, a town that is sort of very much dependent on the offering of that school must decide whether they are going to pay the additional amount of money on a person-by-person basis, or there has to be an actual town vote to say, we will pay above and beyond the average announced tuition in order to meet the tuition request by those independent schools that serve our community.
And that does
It
happen.
happens regularly.
So,
Where I live, they only have basically independent high schools to choose from, you know, so.
That's what I was-
They all go to LI
Yeah.
and St. J Academy for the
And do-
most part, so.
do LI and St. J set their tuition for local students at the rate that the state has designated?
That's an independent decision that they make. I mean, they basically, if you push it, kids will stop going there. So
Yeah.
they almost have to make a market decision.
Right, no, I understand that. I'm literally asking, do they set it? Did they choose to set it at that rate?
I think those two tend to be within the.
Yeah. Okay,
I think DBAs will hire and it's had to ask communities to increase the time they pay.
yeah,
I think for the past years, it's gone sort of up and down.
okay.
Yeah, so we often talk about, it's just another sort of term of art that we often talk about when we're talking about independent schools. We often sort of lump together, just for discussion purposes, the four historic academies, and when we talk about those, we're talking about Bird Academy in Manchester, Limited Institute in Limits, Thetford Academy in Thetford, and St. John's Bury Academy. And the history there is long and deep and connected. But many other approved independent schools exist in Vermont. Public schools in other states just qualify by what they are. And then sort of like how we talk about, like, if you're gonna take your money, go to Deerfield, then it gets more complicated, right? You know, because they don't go through an independent school approval process. If they're in another state, generally the rule is that if it's approved by that other state, it qualifies.
Approved independent also lumps in therapeutic, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
And therapeutic is not, we're gonna use the term, but it doesn't exist in statute. Unfortunately, we tried. And that generally refers to schools that solely exist to serve students who are on IEPs, on individual education programs.
And cannot have their needs met in the state, correct?
Was that?
And cannot have their needs met within their local district, right?
It's really, how kids end up there is all based on the agreement that parents and school district come to how to best serve their students.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a separate financial accounting piece for that type of
Okay.
That
situation.
is not limited to the average announced tuition.
But Rep. Taylor is correct in that when we're talking about approved independent schools, it does, for
Yeah.
regulation purposes,
Yeah.
it does include what we call therapeutic schools.
Right.
Good stuff. Any of the else? Great. Well, we'll end this morning's testimony there, and we will all be regrouping here promptly at 1 for the first in a series of presentations from the Agency of Education.